Good evening and welcome to Community Safety's Town Hall at City Hall. I'm Darrell Evans, the city's public safety manager. I'd like to thank those in attendance here this evening and those watching at home joining us this evening. We have an unusual beginning. If you would, I'd like to ask each of you to join me in a moment of silence to honor the fallen deputy, Deputy Ryan Klinkenbrummer, who was ambushed and killed in Palmdale by a senseless gunman in the line of duty on Saturday, September 16th. His death is a loss to us all. Also like to acknowledge the dedicated service, the commitment to public service, and indelible contributions of one of our Community Safety Committee members, Romy Balwag. Romy's experienced a medical emergency Monday night and unexpectedly passed away. Romy's unbridled energy, kindness, and heartwarming smile definitely be missed. At this moment, if you would, just join me in a moment of silent prayer for the passing of Ryan and Romy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just reminds us all how precious life can be. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the attendance of Councilmember Naresh Solanki, who's here with us this evening, Councilmember Chung Vo, and Councilmember Linda Johnson. They're all here. They want to be with you this evening, hear your concerns, and learn some of the cases firsthand that the Sheriff's Department is handling. Also here this evening, we have City Manager Art Galucci and appointed City Manager Robert Lopez. They're here as well, along with the Community Safety Committee members Pinal Doshi, Martin Flax, Sebastian Gonzalez, Gordon Halm, Mel Cortez, Patrick Sitt, Eric Westfall, and Karen Wilson. So again, these are members who are appointed by the City Council. We meet every other month to exchange information on what's going on in the city and learn from them as well. So we are grateful for them here in attendance this evening. Tonight we have some good information here that will be providing some insightful information and interesting stories on emergency preparedness, current crime trends, interesting case studies, traffic safety matters, and what's going on in our neighborhood watch. A quote from Albert Einstein once said, "What I have is information. What I need is understanding." So you have a lot of information the city constantly provides you, and on the city's webpage, safercerritos.com, we post all the crime stats under crimemapping.com. You can go over there and look at all the data. So we're going to provide you some data, but more importantly, the reason what we're going to be doing here today is providing you with insight, what that means, why it's important, and provide some understanding to what all that data and information is. So with that, I'd like to call up our first presenter, our Community Safety Supervisor, Emily Marina. Emily.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Evans. I'm here this evening to remind you that September is National Preparedness Month and to talk about preparedness. National Preparedness Month was created by FEMA for the purpose of educating the public on how to prepare for and handle emergencies, because disasters are determined not by the amount of damage, but how well we are prepared. So this year's theme is Take Control, 1, 2, 3, with an emphasis on preparing older adults for disasters. Older adults can face greater risks when it comes to extreme weather events and emergencies, especially if they are living alone, have low income, and/or have a disability. First and foremost, you need to make a plan. Your family may not be together if a disaster strikes. It is important to know which types of hazards could affect our area. Earthquakes, of course, but as we discovered a month ago, hurricanes are also a possibility. 2023 started with record rainfall, which brought deadly flooding, high winds, and landslides. In Northern California, heavy snow shut down freeways, and in Big Bear, historic snowstorms damaged homes and stranded visitors. In Sacramento, levees breached and roadways flooded. People were stranded in their vehicles. In March, more intense rainstorms caused hillsides to crumble, forcing people to vacate their homes. 11 atmospheric rivers caused floods that destroyed 20,000 acres of farmland. There were damaging landslides and toppled trees down power lines in mountain communities. Just last August, we waited anxiously for a hurricane that was later downgraded to a tropical storm. And then in the middle of the tropical storm, we had an earthquake. Your emergency plan should include putting together disaster kits for your home, your car, workplace, and or school. Tailor your kits to meet your individual needs. Include extra medication and a way to keep them refrigerated if necessary. Add other medical supplies such as anti-inflammatory and pain meds, antibiotic ointment, bandages, sterile gauze, gloves, masks, and mobility or assistive devices such as spare walking sticks and prescription glasses. Don't forget about your pets. They need their own disaster kits. Food and water, of course, but also include their medicines and medical records. A pet first aid kit would include bandage rolls, tape and scissors, antibiotic ointment, flea and tick prevention, isopropyl alcohol and saline solution, and a pet first aid reference book. Pack a backup leash, collar, ID tag, and a photo of you and your pet together. Because if you're separated, your pet and you, during an emergency, the photo will document your ownership of your pet. Remember the pet's favorite toys, treats, bedding. It'll reduce the stress of your pet. And in case you have to evacuate your home, have a list of hotels that allow animals, or make arrangements with friends or relatives who will be able to take care of them if you are unable to do so. One of the most important aspects of your plan is the family communications emergency component. I have 2 copies of the family emergency communication plan, and you're available to pick them up later. And they'll also be available in the community safety office and the Cerritos Sheriff stations for those of you who are not able to attend this evening. One of the documents is for your children to keep with them in the event the family's not together when the emergency happens. The plan, you list the phone numbers of parents, siblings, neighbors, and other adult relatives, and don't forget to list your out-of-state friend or relative. The back of the form has your meeting spots both in and out of your neighborhood. There's also a space where you can draw a map on how to get there. That's important for the kids. The second document is a family communications plan that asks for most of the same information, but there are specific sections for your work information and school information for the kids. You can add emergency numbers, hotlines, websites. Don't forget the social media hashtags and email addresses. Customize your form and build a support network by reaching out to other family members, friends, and neighbors. For your family members, include the all-important medical information, names and phone numbers of your doctors and insurance carrier, and policy number. Now, the form that I have provided for you asks for a social security number, but I suggest you not do that. Keep your social security number in a secure place. Remember, your pets are your family members, so have the name and phone number of their veterinarian, any medical issues your pet may have, and any other additional information. Everyone in your household and support group, including your out-of-state contact, should have a copy of your family emergency plan. A final note, be prepared for power outages. Power utilities may temporarily turn off power to specific areas as part of the Public Safety Power Shutoff Program, PSPS. Roughly half of the most destructive wildfires in California history can be attributed to electrical infrastructure. The California Public Utilities Commission has given independent operating utilities such as San Diego Gas and Electric, Pacific Gas and Electric, and Southern California Edison the authority to shut off electric power to prevent catastrophic wildfire when strong winds, heat events, and related conditions are present. We witness the destruction that uncontrolled wildfires attributed to faulty electrical equipment down power lines and exploding transformers caused in the town of Paradise by the Camp Fire, in Malibu by the Woolsey Fire, in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties by the Thomas Fire, and then most recently, Lahaina and Maui. Take an inventory of the items you need that rely on electricity. Plan for batteries and other alternative power sources to meet your needs when the power goes out, such as portable charger or power bank. Have flashlights for every household member. If you have a landline for your home phone, determine whether it will work in a power outage and how long the battery backup will last. Just remember, disasters don't plan ahead. You can. So thank you for your attention this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Drew Strong. He will discuss crime trends and crime abatement strategy from a regional and local perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. All right, my name is Captain Drew Strong, and I'm the commander of Cerritos Sheriff Station. On behalf of Sheriff Robert Luna and the men and women at Cerritos Sheriff Station, I'd like to thank those in attendance and those watching at home. First, I'd like to start by requesting that you keep the family members of Ryan Klinkenbrummer in your prayers. Ryan was ambushed and killed in Palmdale by a senseless gunman in the line of duty on Saturday, September 16th, 2023. His death is a loss to us all. I'm going to start this meeting by presenting some statistics and methods which I believe will enhance your awareness and help you remain safe. Before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about who I am, because I'm the new captain at Cerritos Sheriff Station. So my name is Drew Strong. I started the department in 2005 at Twin Towers Correctional Facility. From there, I had the blessing of going to Compton Sheriff Station in 2008. From 2008 to 2016, I worked there on patrol and as a field training officer. When I promoted to sergeant, I went to Century Sheriff Station, and I was there for 4 years, which they patrol Linwood, Willowbrook, and the Firestone areas of South LA. After I promoted to lieutenant, I was sent to Carson Station. I served as a service area lieutenant after working on the line. From that position, I was offered a position in operations over here in Cerritos Station and working for Captain Min Din. From there, the city selected me for the captain of Cerritos Sheriff Station. So that's just a little background on myself. The first area that I wanted to go into was robberies. Since the end of August, there have been 50 robberies reported in Cerritos. That number represents a 42% increase from the last year. Of the 50 robberies, 19 of them, or 38%, stem from shoplifting incidents gone wrong. When a security store employee becomes involved in a physical altercation during the commission of a theft, the crime is elevated to robbery. Street-level robberies remain rare. However, always stay vigilant. If you remove money from the bank, ensure it is concealed and you are not walking away from the banks of places of business with envelopes or money in hand. We've had several instances where people have followed you away from banks after withdrawing money and a robbery has been committed. Next, we'll go to aggravated assaults. What is an aggravated assault? An aggravated assault involves a clear intent to commit serious bodily injury to another. There were 37 reported incidents of aggravated assault this year. That's down 26% compared to the same period last year. The majority of the reported aggravated assaults are domestic violence related. Domestic violence is a serious matter, and I'd like to encourage everyone who has been a victim or knows someone who has been a victim of domestic violence to report the crime. Next, I'm going to move on to residential burglaries. There have been 92 residential burglaries reported in Cerritos year to date. That's a 21% increase from the same period last year. Residential burglaries are the greatest concern to the community and a priority to Cerritos deputies. Although we are seeing an increase in burglaries, we can diminish residential burglaries if we all work together. For those of you who may not be aware, the station has a group of special assignment deputies who have been specifically tasked with reducing crime, including residential burglaries. You'll hear about a few of these success stories during the next presentation to come. I would also like to take this opportunity to solicit your support, as we cannot stop residential burglaries without your help. I want to remind everyone to lock your windows and doors at night, leave cars in the driveway if you can, secure your side gates, leave an exterior light on or an interior light on in your residence at night. If you see suspicious activity, please report it. Community Safety Officer Mark Smith has some excellent suggestions for hardening the target that he'll give you later on in the presentation. If you see suspicious activity, make sure you report it. I can't reiterate that enough. With the public's help, I'm confident that we can deter residential burglars. Next, I'll move on to larcenies. A larceny is a theft of personal property. There were 986 larcenies reported by the end of August. That number represents a 13% increase from the same period last year. The majority of thefts stem from our successful regional shopping centers and large retail stores. We're working closely with our business partners to mitigate the thefts by increasing patrols, sharing intelligence, and utilizing undercover operations. Additionally, the Sheriff's Department recently partnered with other law enforcement agencies to create a joint task force designed to apprehend suspects who commit takeover-style thefts from shopping centers. If you witness a theft from a local business or shopping center, we ask that you remain a good witness. Please do not try to intervene, as some of the suspects may be armed or combative. Next, we're going to move on to grand theft automobiles. When you think of Cerritos, you often think of cars, and so do the car thieves. There have been 273 vehicles stolen inside the city limits year to date. That's a 49% increase from the same period last year. The 49% represents a decrease from earlier in this year, where we were at 70% increase in stolen vehicles. The shopping centers were the areas where vehicles are being stolen from, predominantly. We remind the public to lock your car doors and secure the windows when you go into a shopping center. Do not leave valuables inside of your vehicles. To address this problem, I've directed deputies assigned to our special problems team to conduct additional patrols within city shopping districts. Additionally, our volunteers on patrol have done a great job providing patrol checks in various shopping center parking lots and deploying decoy cars and things like that. Slides. Now we're going to move on to 2 slides. Can we go to the first slide, sir? Thank you. The first slide represents the Part 1 crimes for the past 5 years. As you can see on the slide, most of the crimes are property crimes. Although no cities are void of crime, violent crimes are rare in Cerritos. The second slide represents service calls. Part 1 and 2 crimes and arrests per district. So service calls, Part 1 and 2 of crimes, and arrests per district. So the city's broken down into districts, is how we label them. So for instance, there's 2318, 2319. Those are each patrol districts within the city. In residential areas of 2316 and 2318, located in the northern and eastern portions of the city, service calls and Part 1 crimes are higher than other residential areas of the city. The reason is the proximity to the freeway. Freeways offer a quick exit path for criminals. Well, we can continue to perform surveillance operations, and we will continue to do so, and patrol those areas to mitigate the crime. Obviously, our VOPs help in those areas as well. They perform patrol checks as well to bring a presence into the neighborhood to deter crime. In conclusion of the town hall meeting, however, before I give the next presenter, I'd like to thank a few people, Mayor Barrows, distinguished council members, and the city manager, Art Galucci, for the continued support and funding for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in the city of Cerritos. I would also like to express my appreciation for the dedicated deputies assigned to Cerritos Station for working tirelessly to keep the city of Cerritos safe. I'm now going to turn over this presentation to our very talented Detective Sergeant, Sergeant Lucy Honor. She'll speak about some interesting and noteworthy events. Come on up here, Lucy.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I'm Sergeant Honor, Lucy Honor. I'm the current Detective Sergeant for Cerritos Station. Tonight, we are going to be discussing a few of our noteworthy cases that have occurred here. I supervise a team of 6 detectives, and tonight I brought with me one of our more senior and experienced detective who will be sharing some of our cases with you tonight. He won't be able to tell you the entire case because some of them are pending and some of them still haven't been adjudicated, but he will give you an insight as to what's going on in the city and what we are doing to investigate these crimes for you. So this is Detective Ryan Klinkenbeard, who will be going over the next portion of this process.
Hello, what a turnout. My name is Detective Klinkingbeard. I've been a law enforcement officer for 21 years with Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for 18 years. Been here at Cerrito Station as a station detective for the past 8 years. Today we're going to go over some noteworthy arrests and some incidents. I'm going to start with some retail theft, robberies, stolen vehicles, narcotics arrests, and one of the residential burglaries. So the first one we're going to go over is a retail theft. This incident happened last month at Ralph's grocery store on Carmenita and South Street. There was 3 suspects that stole approximately $1,000 in non-prescription pharmaceuticals. One of the store employees followed the suspects into the parking lot and photographed them and their getaway vehicle. After taking these photographs, the victim was attacked and she sustained some pretty serious injuries. However, because of her and because of good witnesses in the community, suspects have been identified. And at this time, that's as far as I can go with the case because at this point, the case is still pending. Stolen vehicles. There was one stolen vehicle. This was a carjacking case. This incident occurred at the Cerritos Mall. It was a north parking lot by Nordstrom's. This young lady was shopping at one of the stores there. She walked out to her car. As she was loading her property into her car, 2 suspects, or actually subjects because they were juveniles at the time, walked up to her. One of them was armed with a gun and carjacked her by force, told her to give her her key fob, her car, and her phone. And once again, they left the location, but it also took another, I guess, a witness to help this lady out. She had a car, a Mercedes car. She was able to track down in the city of Long Beach pretty quickly. We were able to get our Los Angeles County Sheriff's helicopter out there, who communicated with Long Beach Police Department, and they took these 2 into custody. And the district attorney actually filed carjacking charges on them. And this young lady was able to get her car back and all her property back. So it was a good case. Narcotics. There was this incident occurred on the 18,000 block of Gable Circle. A witness, a neighbor, noticed a gentleman sleeping in his car, and the vehicle didn't appear to be one of the neighbor's cars. Something pretty suspicious. She calls it in. The deputies locate and conduct a traffic stop, or actually contact the person that's in there. The suspect admitted to having illegal items in his vehicle and fentanyl on his person. After a search of this person inside the vehicle, they found 1 pistol, 1 rifle, 1 shotgun, and a multitude of live ammunition that was recovered from his car. The suspect was arrested on numerous drug charges and weapons violations. Should be noted that these guns that were found, 2 of the guns, the AR-15 and the pistol, was an 80% gun, which means it doesn't have a serial number. And a lot of people have heard this over in the news. They call them ghost guns. They're out there. So just, if you guys see these cars that are out there, anything that could help us out, it's always important to call it in. But this person is looking at a whole slew of charges. So I'm going to skip through to this residential burglary. Once again, another neighbor calls it in and is able to give really good details over the phone when this incident is happening. I believe that there was 5 suspects, and according to the report, Neighbors witnessed people jumping fences to the residents across the street. Deputies confronted burglary suspects and a vehicle pursuit was initiated. 2-vehicle collision occurred during the pursuit. 5 males exited the vehicle and ran in different directions. Units from the Lakewood Sheriff's Station, Norwalk Station, and La Palma Police Department assisted. All 5 of them were arrested and caught. So I wanted to put in an audio here of some of the stuff that it's play-by-play, and we cut it down to make it a little bit shorter today. Should be noted that this person, this deputy who's behind these and is communicating to dispatch the pursuit, he is one of the detectives here. His name is Deputy Aguirre, or Detective Aguirre, and he's been on 30 years, so he really knows what he's doing. So when all this was happening, he was coordinating additional units. So luckily we had the airship out and everyone was captured. So here's the audio, some of it.
Come here, patch. 233 Adam on the patch, go. 233 Adam, I'm in pursuit of a 459 vehicle, 5 male blacks, all hooded sweatshirts. It'll be northbound start towards Artesia.
Step 4 northbound start towards Artesia.
231 is in front of me.
Step 4 231's in front. What's your 1020 and which direction?
We are now going to be eastbound on Artesia.
Step 4 now eastbound Artesia. Arrow, you on the frequency?
Airship, 1 minute.
Arrow's 1 out. 233 Adam, or any unit, do you have a plate on the vehicle?
Negative, sir. It's going to be a silver Camry. Yeah, by the suspect vehicle, just TC at 183rd and Bloomfield. Continuing southbound, get 902R to this intersection for the victims of the TC. Stand by. We're going to be eastbound, South Street, approximately 45 miles an hour. Traffic light, and I've got 3 units in the pursuit. All right, we're making a southbound turn on passenger doors open. I got 5 people running. Hey guys, let's cut them off to the east. Cut them off to the east. Your driver's gonna be the one in the red pants. All right, guys, I got a UC vehicle detaining at gunpoint 3 suspects, gun station north. Hey, looks like we're detaining our last suspect here. I don't think there was a 6th suspect confirmed. That's confirmed, Arrow. This is 233 Adam. I outed them all in the car. There were 5. We captured the 3 that we chased here and 2 going north. So we've got all 5. We're good. Hey guys, awesome job. SEC, I think we can drop the patch.
All units for the 459 containment, switch over to LTAC. All units for the 459 containment, switch over to LTAC. Patch and channel clear.
So that was one of our residential burglaries. Pretty intense situation, but all in all, it worked out great. No one was seriously injured, and all 5 were taken into custody by the Cerritos deputies. That's all I got tonight. I'm going to be turning it over to Mark Smith, our Community Service Officer. Mark, here you go.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening. Thanks for attending. I'm CSO Mark Smith, and I'm in charge of the Neighborhood Watch Program. I'm going to start with showing you a chart that shows so far our this one actually shows your 25-year trend for burglaries, which shows we've been up and down over the years in our city with burglaries. And this year, as the captain explained to you, we're up slightly, coming down, from the COVID years, which we were down from, where everybody stayed home. But we did have a high way back in 2017 of 571, so that was our big year in the last 25 years. So we're, doing better. Something we do special in Cerritos is we ask our deputies to extract extra data when they go out to our residential burglaries, which allows us to fill out this form here. Green here, everything in green is good which is good things you can do for your home to prevent a burglary. Exterior lights on, vehicles in driveway, things that we know will help you to stop someone from breaking into your house. Then what we do is we take this information and it allows us to complete this green bar chart here, which really shows green is good, red not so much. And it brings home the fact exterior lights on, not vehicles in driveway, alarms, alarm signs out and displayed. We really get a picture of what people are doing when they're breaking into houses, what is happening. So this pie chart shows us the time of day that burglaries are occurring. The blue is daytime, so the sun's out. Black, nighttime. And the yellow is unknown. The yellow is for people that are on vacation, weekends, so we really can't chart a time of day that the burglaries are occurring. Most people think, and you see that most of them are occurring in the daytime hours. However, it does happen at night, so you're not exempt from burglaries occurring at night. So we need to have, as the green bar chart shows us, lights on at night, windows locked, side gates locked to stop burglaries at night. So you are not exempt. Most of them do occur during daytime. This chart shows it. All of our stats show it, but everyone does need to keep in mind that they are occurring in nighttime hours as well. So for comparison between cities, we use almost sister city Arcadia, which has very similar demographics to us, also has a very fine police department like our sheriff's department. So we're not picking on them for any particular reason, but like us, same similar population, area size as far as the size of the city, like us, very freeway friendly, which is one of our things that we have going for us. And as you can see, 91, 133, so we're very similar in what's happening burglary-wise. So it's not just us that experiences these residential burglaries, it's also a very similar city to us. So we're not alone in what's happening. They have a large shopping center, we have a large shopping center. They have a freeway going right through them, we have two. So very much attributes to what happens with us, which is why we're why people like Cerritos. And lots of nice stuff. We're an affluent city, they're an affluent city. So there's lots of nice stuff in both cities. So to the Neighborhood Watch, it's a collaboration between the city, the sheriff's department, and most of all, you, the residents of Cerritos. Without the residents, Neighborhood Watch does not work. If somebody's not getting us the information, we can't make it work. The sheriff's department does its thing, but without involvement from the community, everything fails. So how can you make things better? Join the Neighborhood Watch program, Operation Nightlight and lights on at night, lock those doors and windows, lock the side gates, and all of this information is available online at safercerritos.com, which is going to change to safercerritos.us very shortly, and always available at Community Safety and the Sheriff's Station, or, with me. So now into some success stories. Yep, you remember this. Every Friday we try to put out Neighborhood Watch news, And one particular news story we put out was about a attempt grand theft that occurred in one of our shopping centers. We gave a description of what had happened. And one of our readers remembered what had happened. So when the suspects came around to his neighborhood, he remembered and stopped from being a victim himself. But more importantly, he got us some pictures, which we got to Detective Bureau, which we were able to get this bulletin out and get it out to everyone within the city. So another example of Neighborhood Watch working. This was one of our recent calls. A caller called in, told the desk, the dispatch center, person walking around on the street had a handgun and alcohol. The deputies arrived, found the person, had a handgun and alcohol. They detained the person, made the arrest. Not possible unless the community calls the call in. And we took another bad guy off the street, which who knows, he's walking. This particular call was over near the mall, actually. I use this one as an example of people that do have camera systems not ignoring the alerts when they get them. This resident got the alert on their cell phone, looked at it, saw the people that were in their house, 3 individuals, immediately called the sheriff's department. They responded. They detained 2 people immediately, set up a containment with the help of our sister stations, Lakewood and Norwalk, Aero Bureau and K-9, and some good investigation work by the field deputies. The 3rd person was apprehended as well. But they did not ignore the notification, which I know I do sometimes on my camera system because it goes off so much. But that was a key. Don't ignore the alert. And this is the same incident that the detective was talking about, but I wanted to stress that by someone calling in this call, something bad could have happened. Tragic with all these weapons, as you can see. There was a lot of power here with all this guns and the fentanyl. And there's a really good picture of what they took off of the street that day. Somebody driving through, could have been a deputy. Who knows what they were here in the city to do. This was a residential neighborhood where they did this. So make sure, and this was all based off a suspicious person in a vehicle call. So it was our citizens calling the deputies. I mean, this could have been a deputy making a traffic stop. Recently, in July, we had an Etch-a-Catch program where we etched a bunch of catalytic converters to hopefully stop some thieves from stealing some catalytic converters. It was conducted with our special assignment deputies that the captain talked about, our volunteers on patrol, and some local tow companies. During this, we did 170 vehicles in the time that we were out there, so we pumped some through. It was a really successful event, so much so that the city is buying our own etching machines so we can do more of these events. Also, the volunteers were an integral part of this, and the station is always looking to recruit more volunteers, which we need more of, and we actually have a representative here in the audience. If anybody's looking to become one or knows anyone, he's more than happy to talk to you about the program and how to become a member. Finally, my information's on there with my phone number, my email. To join Neighborhood Watch, go to safercerritos.com, soon to be safercerritos.us. Click on the banner there, and it will guide you right through the process, and you can become a Neighborhood Watch member, which we hope everyone will do so. We need as many members as we possibly can get. And once again, thank you for attending and watching. And with that, I will bring you Sergeant Rick Vargas, our traffic sergeant at the station.
Good evening, City of Cerritos. I'm Rick Vargas. I've been assigned to this station for 14 years. That's because I love working here. It's a great spot to work. I've been on the department for almost 35 years. And I know some of you are probably saying, yeah, you look like it. That's okay. Today, I will be talking to you about traffic. I've been in charge of the traffic program here at Cerritos for about 8 years. I took over for Detective Tim Britt when he left. Some of you may have known him. He retired, and then I took over the spot. And I've been doing it ever since. Being in the traffic part of Cerritos, I am in charge of 3 motor units, 1 newly formed commercial enforcement deputy, and then 4 traffic deputies that work the various shifts with a person who relieves them. So the first thing I want to talk about is citations, because everybody likes to get those, right? And I know some of you have gotten citations here before, and that's okay. There's a reason for that. I'm going to explain it to you, okay? So don't think that we have quotas, because those are against the law. We don't have those. And like I tell all my family, because my family doesn't believe me, no, I do not get $40 for every ticket I write. I don't know where that rumor came from, but that's what they think. If that was the case, you'd all have tickets when you walk out right now. Trust me. Christmas coming up and all, you know. There's a reason why we write citations, believe it or not. Nobody likes to get them, but there are 2 types of citations. There's a hazardous citation, meaning you get a ticket for something that can cause a collision, like running a red light or unsafe turn. Those are actions that can cause a collision. Those are called hazardous cites. Non-hazardous citations are things like expired registration, things like that. So what I'm going to be talking about is hazardous citations. Statistics have shown that, nationwide statistics have shown that the more hazardous citations we write, collisions go down. Now, there are 2 types of collisions. There is an injury collision, obviously, and a non-injury collision. An injury collision will be anything from a complaint of pain, like, oh, my neck hurts, my neck, my back, my neck and my back, you know, one of those, to being hauled off into an ambulance, going to the hospital, to actually even a fatal. So statistics have shown that the more hazardous citations that are written, injury collisions go down. That's just a fact, a nationwide fact. So there's an actual formula. It's called a traffic index. And the formula goes like this. For every 20 hazardous citations we write, we want to compare that to 1 injury collision. Okay, so the ratio is 20 to 1. So we understand we're doing a good job if we write 20 hazardous citations for 1 injury collision, because we want to keep the injury collisions down. That's our main goal. Okay, and so with that being said, the City of Cerritos has hired a commercial enforcement deputy who goes around and writes tickets to truck drivers who are driving the streets in Cerritos that aren't supposed to be here because there's a truck route. So he writes all the tickets for off-truck route. Now, let me tell you, Deputy Alvin Tompkins does not play. Don't even try it, because if you're a truck driver in here, you better make sure that you have your windshield wiper fluid filled. I had no idea that was even a violation, but he will check your windshield wiper fluid to make sure that it's filled up. Okay, that's a ticket, and I understand they're kind of expensive, so be on the job. Here, in case you need to know what he looks like, ready? Here we go. That's him. Famous Deputy Alvin Tompkins. See that face? He's ready to go to work. He's ready to do his job, and he's checking tire tread. He checks pressure, windshield wiper fluid, and no, there's no such thing as blinker fluid, so don't fall for that one. But there is windshield wiper fluid. I didn't know that was a ticket. He'll check all of that stuff. He's the one that taught me that. I was like, what? Okay. So that's our commercial enforcement deputy, traffic enforcement. He works here now. The city was good enough to hire somebody to do that. They bought a truck with all the equipment, scales and everything. He was trained by CHP on how to do it. He can order a truck driver to go down to the scales in Santa Fe Springs, and they can weigh the truck. And those tickets can be really expensive for the truck driver and the company. So they need to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. And there's a reason for that too. You know, those trucks get too heavy. They ruin the streets from driving on. These streets are not made to hold all these trucks, especially residentials or some of the other streets that are off truck route, and obviously the noise. There's a lot of noise with these trucks, but we do need them to deliver all our goods to all these stores and stuff. So they're allowed to go to the stores and deliver their goods, but then they need to get right back on the truck route and exit the city. And Alvin Tompkins will make sure that that happens. Okay. I'm going to talk about collisions. Okay. You have a better chance of taking an ambulance ride due to a collision than you do to one of the assaults or something like that. This is a very safe city. You don't have to worry about being assaulted, but you do have to worry about hopefully not getting into an injury collision, because those happen everywhere. There's nothing we could do except for try to educate people on their driving and how to avoid getting into a collision. And we all know that nowadays, I was just speaking to somebody earlier, nowadays there are more distractions than ever. People have cell phones, they're texting, they're tweeting, twittering, whatever else. They're listening to the radio. We got kids in the back. We got husbands and wives arguing. There's a bunch of distractions when you're driving. And it takes a lot of concentration to be able to drive. That's why when we arrest people for driving under the influence, we send them through a series of tests, because we want to make sure that they could do more than one thing at the same time. That's why there's the, stand and balance and do all this, to show that they're doing more than one thing at a time, because driving is not just one thing. You're not just doing one thing, you're doing multiple things at the same time, okay? So with that being said, your chances of being in an injury collision are greater than any other time here at the station of getting injured in the city of Cerritos. It's a very safe city, but you can be involved in a collision. As one of our sergeants, it happened to one of our sergeants, and it was on the news, so I know that you guys probably, most of you may even know the incident I'm talking about. One of our deputies was requesting assistance, meaning he was requesting help. And the sergeant was responding with his lights and siren on. Now, lights and sirens are very loud. When I was sitting here, when we first started the meeting, you guys might have heard the car go by with the siren going. And we're inside council chambers, and it's still loud. So that's a loud siren, but I guarantee you, whenever one of our units collides with the citizen, they always say, "I didn't hear the siren," because there's a lot of distractions. Radio's going, kids talking, things like that. We all have to be vigilant when we're driving as to what's around us. Anyway, this sergeant was responding to a deputy needing help, and in the process, the other person in the other party in the car did not hear the siren when the sergeant was passing her on the left-hand side, because there was traffic at the intersection. So he had to go around the traffic on the opposite side of the street, which the vehicle code does allow us to do when we're responding with our lights and sirens on and responding to an emergency. Now, this is a professional driver. He's been trained how to drive. He's been trained how to drive at high speeds while talking on a microphone. He's been trained, so he's a good driver, and he was still involved in a collision. The lady turned left in front of him. She did not know he was passing on the left-hand side. She made a left-hand turn, and they collided. So basically, if you could see me, they went like this, okay? So I'm gonna show you some of the pictures from the scene. That's how the Sergeant's Tahoe ended up. That's an apartment that he squeezed in between that telephone pole and the apartment, and thank goodness he did not hit that telephone pole head on. We might be talking a whole different collision at that point. He was able to use reflexes, because he's a trained professional, and go off to the side and actually avoid a more serious collision. The house that he hit did have some damage to it, but thankfully there was nobody in that room that he hit, because there were children that lived in the house, but they weren't in the room. So everything good happened on this situation, as opposed to things that could have went wrong. It's kind of hard to see, but that's the eastbound. So if you look at east down 183rd from Pioneer, that's the top one, okay? If you guys know the area. And then obviously the bottom one's westbound, so you're looking towards Pioneer, westbound on 183rd. Now that's what you see after the collision, okay? That's how it stands when we get there. This is what we see at the collision. This was the other party's car. You can see how it ripped off the front end of the vehicle. Vehicles are a lot safer nowadays. They're made to protect the interior of the car during a collision. So the outside might look all mangled and messed up, but the interior capsule area of the car, so to speak, is usually pretty intact compared to the outside. The outside looks bad, but the inside, the inner compartment are safe. I responded to a collision over here on 183rd, and if you looked at it, you'd be like, whoa, no way. Toyota Sienna, if you guys don't have one, you might want to invest in one. I'm not speaking for Toyota, I'm just telling you what happened at the scene. This Toyota Sienna was hit, rolled like 2 or 3 times, was on its side, actually upside down when we got there, and the 2 little kids were on the curb doing their homework. By the way, those are Cerritos residents, you know what I'm talking about. They're there doing their homework when we roll up, and I look at the car, and I'm like, now that's a safe car. The way they designed it, it took the rolls, the interior was good, and these kids are doing their homework, and I'm like, you better be doing your homework. You go to Whitney? Better go to Whitney. Believe it or not, I went to Whitney. I don't tell too many people that story because they never believe me. What, you're only a deputy? As you can see, the damage to the sergeant's Tahoe, he was obviously in the driver's seat. There was no one in the passenger seat, but you could see how the side of the vehicle along the telephone pole really got torn up. And thankfully, like I said, he didn't hit that head on. This is what's called the factual diagram. So when I get out there as an investigator, we use all these measuring tools. There's a roll of tape, and there's regular tape measures that we use, and we tape everything off, and we measure to find out where everything is. And we draw a picture of the scene in case it has to go to court. They know exactly that tire was right there. It was 27 feet 3 inches from the curb line. You know, so it's that's why it's called the factual. It's very down to the inch. Okay, that's what it would look like. That's actually the actual factual drawing from this collision. You see that there's a radio car up on top, and that's the other car. I wish I had a pointer, but the top car is the way her vehicle ended up. You saw the picture, how she was kind of like next to the, see how the Tahoe's up on the right-hand corner picture? The Tahoe's up against the telephone pole, and she's below it. That's how the picture on the bottom, the factual drawing. His car is the bottom one, hers is the top one, and all those little things mean something, okay? Now, we usually go out there with our measuring tapes and all this and that, and it takes a long time. You wonder why that street's stopped for or blocked off for like 4 hours? It's because we're measuring everything. But now we have new technology. The Sheriff's Department has a device that will take a 3D picture of everything and measure everything. They set it all up, costs about $90,000. They set it all up, they sit there, and it goes, scans the whole thing, takes all the measurements, and boom, you got your picture, okay? We have access to that on serious collisions, fatals, and collisions where somebody gets hurt or something like this happens. We actually have access. We call traffic services, and they will come out. There's 2 of them the Sheriff's Department has. They have one up in Lancaster, Palmdale, and they have one down here for us to use. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. That's what it looks like when you take the picture. And this is what it looks like when it's scanning. Did I just have to push the button? Oh, I'm sorry. So that's it, how it looks when it's taking the picture of the whole scene. It's pretty cool the way that the technology is nowadays. So they set it all up with these little boxes, and it just takes pictures of the whole scene, and then we're able to measure everything. And that shows the drawing that you saw on the previous slide. That shows how the cars ended up and everything that gets measured. So that's some technology that's available to us for collisions. I thought it was pretty interesting. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but that's all I got. If you guys would like to speak to me afterwards about anything traffic related, I'm gonna hang around afterwards. We can chit chat. And for the lady who was telling me about the Dodgers, we could talk about that if you want to. So I'll be over here after the meeting if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. So I had a lot of information here tonight, but in the big picture, what are we seeing? You got to remember in LA County, we've been under COVID restrictions until February of this year. So we're starting to see crime go back up. But historically, it's down, but it is turning around because during the last couple of years, we've had COVID restrictions, people at home, and then now everybody's out and about. And we're also seeing that criminals are becoming more brazen. If you've been watching the news lately, right? So we've had people walking into open garages. We have people go into the retail stores. You know, before when they would steal stuff, they would go into the clothing room, they'd put a couple garments on, they'd try to walk out with it. They don't even do that anymore. One of our retail stores, the person went in, gathered a bunch of merchandise, looked over at the cashier and says, "I'm taking this, leave me alone," and just walked out. And that was it. And so they're pretty brazen. We're also seeing people working in groups. You see the flash mobs in groups, so you get 2 or 3 people. So the person that you're seeing may be committing the crime, but there's oftentimes a layoff person or a second person. So you gotta be very alert to that. That's why we always say, why don't you be a good witness? We had a shoplifting event take place here at one of our big box stores. And so the person went in, gathered a bunch of property, and walked out. They were confronted by one of the store agents. Person turned around, opened up their jacket, showed them a handgun, and that was it, right? So you would think that they're just taking something, but they're armed. And, you know, they could be willing to use that. You never know. You see there's a lot of decriminalization with narcotics. So you see more narcotics use. As you know, I'm a retired commander, LA County Sheriff, spent 5 years in the Narcotics Bureau. A lot of people who are involved in thefts are using the drugs. And of course, once you start using drugs, it's very difficult to retain employment. And so without means of earning it, they go out and they steal it. So you have to be very alert to that because they might be under the influence of drugs. It's not rational people. And so once upon a time there, when we were in charge of the SWAT teams, we would still teach the young lieutenants. We'd always ask them or tell them, hey, do not transfer your morality onto somebody else. That's a junior varsity mistake. Well, they won't do this. They won't hurt me. It's only property. No, they're going to do whatever they do, right? So it's never the question of what will they do? That's not the question you ask. You ask yourself, what are they capable of doing if they so choose? Someone who's a large human being, a strong human being, under the influence, armed. It's not what you think they might do. It's what could they do if they choose to do it? And that's where you have to decide. And so, again, we want you to be good witnesses. Call the sheriff's department. Call the people who are the professionals. Call the people who get workers' comp insurance in case they're injured. And let them deal with all that. So we're also seeing that people working in groups, people unarmed. Also, we're going to be doing the no bail here in Los Angeles County. So a lot of times when the deputies go out, they make the arrest. The individual, if it's a property crime, nonviolent crime, they're going to be issued a citation and a stern finger wag and sent on their way. So that's where we're at. And every time we catch people, they become more and more educated. They don't like to be caught either because, they do get citations. They're supposed to go to court. They learn each and every time. So it becomes harder and harder to do it. We're also seeing them becoming more confrontational, with deputies and or people on the streets and getting in your face, basically. So again, be alert to that. You don't want to be part of that. Earlier, Emily talked about disaster preparedness. How many people here could reach out to your friends and family if you didn't have your phone? In my phone, I have for my daughter, it's labeled Darling Daughter. And that's what I know it is. I call her Darling Daughter. Siri, call Darling Daughter. But you know what? As I stand here, if I lost my phone and I asked somebody, may I use your phone? I couldn't call her. I don't have that number memorized, right? It's all in the phone. So the point of the story is at some point in time, you should print out your contacts and keep them available because if your phone goes away, until you find another phone and download it, if it's available, if there's not an emergency, or earthquake or electrical stuff. Also, Em talked about rolling power outages. That's going to be common now, where you're going to see that because of the fires and the damage and all that stuff. You saw that in Maui, you saw it in different places. So of all the things to prepare for, earthquakes and all the disasters you can think of, I would plan very carefully about being on an extended power outage because that's very likely to happen. So the question is, if you had no power, what would it cost you to replace the contents of your refrigerator and your freezer? You know, things are very expensive. It's very hard to go to the grocery store and get out of there for under $150 now. It's a lot more than that. Anybody who goes to Costco knows what that's all about. And so you could have $300, $400, $500 worth of things in your refrigerator or your freezer. And some people have a second freezer in their garage. If the power goes out, you know, you lose all that. What would it cost to replace that? So maybe, you know, there's value in having a small generator. Anytime there's major hurricanes and disasters, first things that go generally are generators. If you go to Home Depot or different big box stores. So you definitely want to buy this stuff. As I always say, when you're dealing with emergencies, you always want to go get the stuff before 12 million other human beings in Southern California need it, because the chances of getting it after the emergency is not going to be very realistic. You saw what happened in Maui, and you know, the water and contaminated water and all those sort of things. So always prepare before. So again, we had a lot of information tonight. Hopefully there's some value to you. You are seeing crime increase. The deputies are out there doing the best they can, but there are 50,000 residents here, 9 square miles at any one time. You know, we have deputies out there, but we don't have enough to cover everybody's problem. So I always make the same analogy as fire. I hope my house never burns down. I count on the fire department to be there, but I don't count on them to not have a kitchen fire, right? So I behave responsibly. I don't have flammable materials in my kitchen. I have a fire extinguisher as I exit my garage, so I can stop and decide whether I'm going to fight the fire or just leave and let the insurance company deal with it. Either way, smoke alarms, all the kind of stuff to mitigate a fire. But should it happen, I would trust that the fire department would be there and assist me. Same with deputies. You know, if you leave your garage door open and your designer bag in the car and your $7,000 mountain bike out front and your dog's taking a nap and everything else, you know, then your chances of becoming a victim are going out there. Criminals are exceptionally insightful, and they recognize and seize opportunities. That's what they do. Very rare to have them confront you. They usually like trick or device, but you know, it does happen. But it's pretty rare. It's normally they are prowling around, they see an opportunity and they take it. And then if there's somebody else, they'll see an opportunity, they'll cause a distraction, cause your attention elsewhere, and then somebody will steal it. And so that's what you got to be alert to. So with that, I'd like to just open it up for any questions and answers for anybody here that presented tonight or myself. If anybody has any questions in general about any law enforcement event, public safety event, or just any question that you may have at all, we're here to respond. Anyone? Okay. You Mark, you know what? Let me get you a microphone.
Hi, I'm Colleen Aldrich, and in December, we'll have lived in Cerritos for 50 years, my husband and I. So, and we love our city, and we're proud of our city, and we have a good city. We do have a problem, and we've had schools closed down recently. When I say closed down, they go into lockdown. I'm not why? Because coyotes have been on the playground, and it's dangerous for the kids. I walk my dog, my Toto, that I had for 12 and a half years, across the Rainbow Bridge in January, not because he was killed by a coyote. He had a tumor, he had cancer. I'm still not over it. But my baby, as I would walk him, so many people would come up to me and cry and hug me, because we got known in the neighborhood. And we got known in 3 tracks, because that's what we'd cover. Many dogs, many cats have been killed, and it's on the rise again. And back in 2019, I came and spoke in June of 2019, before COVID, and Mayor Solanke was mayor at the time, and he was very kind. And he said, yes, we're going to put it on the agenda. Daryl, took you a few months to get there, but finally, after about 3 months or 4, I can't remember quite, you did get it on the agenda. And you got a gentleman from the state who was wonderful, and he talked about things. He also told me that we need the wildlife program here in Cerritos. He had talked to you about it, but he said, that guy doesn't seem real interested in having it, so you may want to push it. Well, I've been doing that since 2019. I will give you the fact that we've had COVID, and I do understand that, and that was serious, but coyotes are getting more and more and more. This is not about killing coyotes, please know that. This is about learning to live with wildlife. If you've had people hold you and cry because these animals, my Toto, my new little guy, Max Jr., all 6.7 pounds of him, little Yorkie, he's family to us. And these animals are animals, but they're also our family members. And there's more that we can do. And I'm asking you to please pick up the phone, call the state, find out when we can have it. We have a wonderful safety committee, and I'm sure some of those people would take the training. I had people lined up to take the training back in 2019, but I don't know where they are now here in 2023. It's been almost 4.5 years. So my point is, we need this. We need our kids not to have to go into lockdown because we got coyotes at different schools. And they're not just coming out at night between 2 or 5 in the morning. They're out during the day, folks. They're out when we're walking our animals. They're, you know, I know it's not their fault. They're looking for food. We've pushed them down, you know, all the building, the fires. I get all that. And I don't want anybody carrying guns or shooting coyotes, please. That's not what we're advocating. And I know we have other serious issues, but this is an important issue. And as I left my Max Jr. tonight, giving him kisses because he loves his mommy, I would die to have him killed by a coyote. And any of you that have animals, I don't want a child hurt. I don't want a senior hurt. I don't want any person hurt in our wonderful city. And there's more that we can do, and there's more that we can educate. And I'm pleading with you, please. I've waited 4.5 years. It's time we call, we schedule it. I will get volunteers. I will go to your neighborhood watch meetings. I will train people. I'll get others to train people. And I know we have some wonderful neighborhood watch captains that are probably here tonight. Hello, hello, hello. And I know there are people that care enough or have people in their neighborhoods that care enough that will do this. And it won't cost the city a penny. This beautiful room costs, I don't know how much. It's gorgeous, by the way. But this is not going to cost you. Just make the call, please. I implore you, for all of our fur families, for all of our children, for everyone in the city and the safety. We need it. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that.
And I do have a sign-up sheet for anybody that would like to sign up before they leave. Thank you.
We can tell you're very passionate about the subject, and and love your pet. I have a pet as well. I live in Huntington Beach near the bird sanctuary. I can tell you my neighbors have had their pets, their cats and small dogs taken by coyotes as well. And I'm glad that you mentioned living with coyotes because they are part of the landscape. There is no removing them. It's more about education, learning what they do. And they too are, like criminals, opportunists. So they go around. If you have food that's out or water that's out, they will smell the urine of your pet. They know that there's a pet there somewhere, and they're very patient, and they'll return until they
Stop.
they.
One of my neighbors not too far away, probably ever can hear me even without a microphone, but they will stop, and they did that twice to one of my neighbors further down in my track on Rose Street. And the last time they were able to kill the baby, you know, her puppy, who wasn't a puppy, but a small dog. And she was right there. The first time she broke her foot, couldn't work for a year. She saved her coyote from her pet. Second time, she couldn't get to the dog fast enough. It was over for the dog.
Well, thank you. You may be comforted to know that this subject was discussed at the last city council meeting, and council has directed staff to look into. Okay. Yes, and that'll be involving coordination with other agencies as well, so we have to get on their calendars all when we schedule those things. It's just not us, right?
May I challenge you to get on the phone, please, and do that?
Yes, we will. We've started. You're welcome. Anyone else?
My question is not to put anyone on the spot, but I've lived in Cerritos for over 40 years, and I've always felt safe here. But with the rise in crime, is our sheriff's department large enough to maintain the safety in the city?
Yes. Well, thank you for asking that. And the answer to that is yes. We study, as you saw some of the numbers here, we could go into this for hours. We study crime, days, times, patterns. We have crime analysts that crunches all this data. We schedule deputies. We have a base platform of deputies. And then on top of that, we have overtime. So we schedule additional deputies as needed during the hot spots, not only during the times of the week, but during the seasons. So we're going to be coming into our holiday season pretty soon. We have what's known as a holiday interdiction, where we spend thousands of dollars to put additional deputies out because that's one of the things we need to concern ourselves in the city. All around November, you start to see people going out and shopping more, filling their houses up with nice gifts, and going on vacation. The criminals know that. It is when I worked for the sheriff's department, talked about it as the season of the locusts, right? They all come here and feed on people who've gone out shopping. So we do. Deputies are expensive, though. They're about $300,000 a piece, about $330,000 actually, as a contract item. They're worth every penny. They don't get paid that, by the way. So there's a lot of overheads in there. It's the deputy, the car, the radios, everything goes on top of that. But yes, so what we do is we look at response times, calls for service. And if the response times are starting to expand, then we would add deputies. Or sometimes what we do is, like with Mark here, we have community safety officers. So they're about a third of the price. And then what they do is they go out and investigate and take reports for non-violent crimes, crimes where there's follow-up information. So that frees the deputies to go out and pursue the criminals. So there is a challenge going on now because they're not doing much time in jail. If you're not familiar, back with AB 109, the prison realignment, jailhouse realignment. So the bottom line is, if you're convicted for a serious felony and you get sentenced to state prison, if you get 5 years or less as a sentence, you're not going to state prison, you're going to the county jail. And whenever it gets very populated, the sentences get reduced there, so people come back out very quickly. And again, property crime, they're just issuing citations because of the limited capacity that's over there. But thank you for asking that. The city manager, city council are very responsive. Public safety is a #1 priority. If you can't be comfortable in your own city or enjoying the parks or shopping districts, if you feel they're unsafe, you don't want to go there and shop, then we got big problems. So we, like an accordion, we expand and contract our staffing based on what's going on. So thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I'm Gordon Hom. I'd like to do a scenario. Let's say the lights went out right now. I think City of Cerritos has emergency, but let's say the lights went out right now in your home. What would you do? You can't turn on the TV. You don't know what's going on. Hopefully your car's outside. You can go to your car, turn on the radio, and find out what happened. So right now, what would anybody else do at that moment? At the same time, it's dark here, your cell phone has a light, you exit out here, you go to your car, and while you're going to your car, text whoever is important, say, I'm at City Hall, I'm going to the car, and hopefully the cell service still works. Let them know where you are, that you're okay, and let's hope we didn't have some major disaster that totally disables us completely. So At this moment, we can calmly think about that. But if this happens to you, you know, the question is, what would you do?
Thank you. Hopefully, like I said, once, you know, I was the deputy director of the county's emergency operations center. So at one time, I was responsible for 12 million people. If anything big would have happened in the LA County, it would have been me and one other person making the call. During that time, the Team 3 was up. And I can tell you that, you know, there's probably about 25 days of food inside LA County. You know, there's 12 million people eating 3 times a day, right? That's about 45 million meals a day cranking out. You're going to lose probably 35 to 40% of your food within 10 days because the refrigerated frozen food will be gone. That's if there's no rail cars or, you know, being resupplied because of, you know, we are in a giant fishbowl, if you would. It's a big horseshoe shape. If you look at the mountains the way it's in here, those choke points go, you got about 25 days and then we're out of food. Unless it's going to get shipped in, it'll take a while. But the point of the story, you should always not rely on government. They always talk about that. Even Maui saw that everywhere. You need to be able to be self-reliant for at least 3 days. And then after that, you will start to see all the organizations. Certainly, we're going to be organized right away. I'm glad you mentioned that. Here within the city, there's a special program we have for our cell phones where if all the cell sites go down or 12 million people try to use them all one time, that emergency personnel, first responders get priority on the cell sites. Same with the sheriff's cars when they're communicating with each other. So they basically bump everybody else off and emergency personnel will be on the cell sites. But again, you really want to be self-reliant. I can't overemphasize that. At my house, I've got all my toys, but I also have hard copies of first aid books and all those things. I anticipate the internet won't be working. So again, you know, you don't rely on cell phones, don't rely on the internet. It may or may not be there. You saw what happens or what's happening in Las Vegas at the various hotels, right, where they've gone just completely offline because of being hacked. And so here at the city, we are prepared for all that. I was talking with Aaron the other day, who's our IT manager. They were talking about the protocols for insurance companies, and the FBI is talking about cities. Hey, you should be able to go paperless for at least up to 30 days. So in case all the computers crash. Our emergency operations center here is set up that way. We have all the toys, but if not, we've got several boxes with number 2 pencils and paper. And as I remind everybody, they fought World War II with papers and pencil. And so we're from the ground all the way up, and that's the way you should build your house as well, that you have all the supplies. And again, maybe next time we can go over it, particularly sanitation. You don't have buckets and trash bags and all this stuff because sewer lines will be ruptured, you know, during major earthquakes. And once that happens, that causes a lot of drama, you know. So again, we can talk to Emily offline here, but do not wait for the big one, whatever that is. So thanks for mentioning that. Any other questions?
Good evening. I'm Leela Nam, and I wanted to share that there's a disaster expo at the Anaheim Convention Center on September 27th and 28th, and it's free. So if anybody wants to go, let's be prepared.
Sounds like you can get your Christmas shopping all done in one day, right? Christmas right around the corner. So that's something you want to do about it. I always talk about it. It's like insurance. You know what? I don't think about this stuff much. I go out, I get prepared, I buy all the toys, I put them away, and then I go live my life. I don't sit here and think about it all the time. But again, I don't want to go looking for it. And the older I get, the less likely I want to be fighting with a 25-year-old over the last remaining, you know, generator or something. So, you know, as an AARP member, you know, I get my stuff early. You know, I don't want to be standing in line and wrestling with people over the last morsel that's in the supermarket. Any other question? No? Well, thank you very much. We'll remain afterward. You know, in closing, just like to thank the deputies assigned to Cerrito Station who work diligently every day of the year to protect us and our property. You know, they're out there all the time. It takes a very special person to go out into the night and stop very suspicious people doing very suspicious things. And I'd like to thank you and everyone viewing this presentation at home for joining us here this evening. And with that, we'll conclude this meeting. Thank you.